Well, if you were at Paycor Stadium on Sunday, you finally got to experience a win from your team at Paycor. You got to celebrate with your friends, maybe your family a little bit. The team did not celebrate. I will say that. I don't think the team celebrated at all. And that was by the direction of Joe Burrow because he's already focused on Thursday night. We are going to talk about the win over the Raiders. We're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. We're also going to talk about what was going on with Jermaine Burton and all of the drama surrounding that and where they go from here. They are 4-5. Can they save their season on Thursday night? You are watching Deep in the Stripes. It is the sickest Bengals podcast around, and I am your host, Elise Jesse.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse.
From 31 yards, McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl. They did it. They beat Mahomes at home. Wow, Joe Burrow. No way.
The sickest Cincinnati Bengals podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, finally a win, 4-5, going into week 10. Can you believe it? Already week 10. Week 9, a success. And I do not care. I've seen so many replies on social media to my tweets and just like Instagram, all that stuff of you guys saying, it's the Raiders. You should beat the Raiders. Yes, you should beat the Raiders. The Bengals did beat the Raiders, but wouldn't you be worried if the Bengals beat the Raiders, but it went into overtime and they barely beat the Raiders? Wouldn't you be worried if they struggled mightily against the Raiders? I would be. Personally, that would worry me a lot against a team who has the worst record in the NFL. Just saying. A decisive win is good. We can celebrate that just a little bit. We can be happy about that. Joe Burrow was not happy about that. And you know what? We can dive into this first because I don't know if you guys saw the video, but it was TV copy and and we'll also get into Jermaine Burton, but it was a situation where just Joe Burrow looked pissed off. It was not up to his standard. And he even said he strives for perfection. And the play, especially in the second half, was not up to his standard. We saw a lot of free rushers. We saw them having trouble picking up the blitz. We saw a lot of communication issues in the second half. Delay of game issues with them in the second half. They had trouble getting the play call in. Oh my gosh. Yes, that would frustrate a quarterback, and especially a quarterback who has the awareness about his team and knowing that these little tiny issues, the buildup, especially in the second half of these little issues, will kill you against a team like the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are not a team that you can have a lot of mistakes, especially little mistakes. You can't have that stuff against the Baltimore Ravens. You've got to clean that up. And so I think I totally understand why he was angry. So it totally makes sense to me. I'm not necessarily worried about him being angry about it. I think he should be angry. I think anybody would. He puts so much time and so much effort into being excellent at his craft. And when things don't go the way that he expects them to, or when he is putting in so much work and then he sees that free rushers like Max Crosby hit him so many times, like after the whistle, and it was just messy. It was messy. So we get it. I'm not worried about him being angry at all. I think you respect that out of your quarterback. He addressed the team after the game and said, we're not going to celebrate. They have to leave. And today is Monday. So they have to leave on Wednesday for Baltimore, just a couple of days. So typically a guy has a whole week, the whole Monday, they're off Tuesday. They can get into recovery. They can get massages. They can get into the cold tub, get their bodies ready. The coaches have time to give them all the film. They probably took their iPads home. They usually take their iPads home on Sunday night or Monday morning. And they start looking over the next team. They probably took their iPads home on Sunday night to start looking at Baltimore. Granted, it's a good thing in a way because Baltimore they've faced so many times, so they know this team really well. It's not like it's a brand new team with brand new things that they're throwing at them. The Bengals and the Ravens know each other, so that's a plus, I guess, in a way. But yeah, they get their film and they're already focused on next week. They don't get a lot of time off between games. And honestly, when you think about the NFL, you think about how essentially if you're an NFL player, it's like I've heard former players describe playing an NFL game like you're getting into a car wreck. Every few plays, it feels like you're getting into a car wreck. You've got to get your body right. And that is the biggest challenge. And then you think about the road team. Being the road team is especially hard on a Thursday night because you have to get on that bus. You got to go to the airport. You got to sit on an airplane. Most of those airplanes are tiny. So it's not like these guys are huge. They don't have a lot of room in these airplanes. They're sitting on the airplane for a while, bus back to the hotel. They're not sleeping in their own beds. You know how it is. Like they just, well, you probably don't from personal experience. Neither do I. But they are in a situation where they're not extremely comfortable like the Baltimore Ravens are as the home team. They get to sleep in their own bed. They're not rushing around. They're not getting to the airport. They're not up in the air, flying around, dehydrated, all that stuff. None of those are factors the Baltimore Ravens have to worry about. So there's an added hurdle for the Cincinnati Bengals, and they know that. Let's go into our game ball of the week because I think he deserves this in a big way.
Who gets the game ball?
The guy who gets the game ball is Trey Hendrickson. He had 3 sacks yesterday, according to ESPN stats, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass defense, 6 quarterback hits. He now has 8 sacks, which is good enough for second in the NFL. I talked to him yesterday. I do not know how he is able to keep his production at such a high level game after game, year after year. It is insane. I feel like he is just one of those rare talents. And the Cincinnati Bengals were fortunate enough to have him on their team and also re-sign him last season. So Trey Hendrickson, man, he is such a difference maker. He is so good at affecting the passer and making the passer uncomfortable. And that just helps everybody down the line on the defensive side of the ball. He is a huge reason why the Cincinnati Bengals only allowed 217 total yards from the Las Vegas Raiders. And they also, the score was 41-24, but honestly, there was a bigger gap for the majority of the game. They scored late. And I was impressed by that. I thought that he responded really well after having a really difficult game against the Eagles. And to come out and I know you guys are all going to come in the comments and say, it's the Raiders, but every single game in the NFL is going to be a dogfight, I think. No matter what anyone says, I really think that each game, you never know truly what's going to happen. Heck, we can talk about how bad the Raiders are this whole entire episode, but guess what? The Raiders beat the Baltimore Ravens. They did something that most other teams this season have not been able to do. So we will talk about that as well. Let's get into our rant of the week because this has been a really, really hot topic leading up to the game, during the game, even after the game. The coaches, Joe Burrow, had to talk about it. So let's just get that out of the way before we talk about Baltimore.
Elise's rant of the week.
Rant of the week, I guess you can expect me to say, Jermaine Burton. What on earth are you doing? Now, I know, 23-year-old, the adjustment from going from college to the pros can be difficult for some guys. Your prefrontal cortex, not all the way developed. The decision-making, maybe not all the way there. You gotta step it up now. This is the second healthy scratch for him. He was a no-call, no-show for a walkthrough, which is one of the easiest parts of the week for a player, honestly, leading up to the game. A no-call, no-show. And I think that is extremely disappointing when you think about how that decision affects the people around you. It's not just the fact that Joe Burrow went up to the podium. He's speaking in front of everyone. His words hold a lot of weight. People actually listen to what Joe Burrow has to say. They care about what that man has to say. And for that man to go up on the podium that week leading up to the game with the Las Vegas Raiders, for him to say, Jermaine Burton is a great player. We want him featured this week. For him to give Jermaine Burton an endorsement leading up to the game, T. Higgins is also out. We're talking about opportunities here. Jermaine Burton is a rookie. Jermaine Burton has gone in front of the media and said that he wants more opportunities to show everybody what he is made of, what he is capable of, how much he can help this team. You can't help the team if you're not available on Sunday. And so for you to make the decision, and I truly feel like that was a decision. Yes, it was a mistake, but also if you continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, I do feel like those are decisions that you are making. Not setting your alarm. I don't know if it was an alarm situation. I don't know totally what was going on with him, his inability to make a walkthrough. But I looked at it as a very selfish decision because you knew that the game plan revolved around you. And the coaches had planned for you to be featured in this game. Then when you no call, no show, what are they supposed to do? You got to be worth your problems. You can't be a rookie begging for an opportunity in the media and then no call, no show the day before the game. The Bengals staff was forced to discipline a 23-year-old man. They don't want to be doing that. The other thing that I think about is that the coaches are sitting there. Most people already know. I know firsthand because I was fortunate enough to follow Paul Gunther, Paul Alexander, Coach Simmons. I was able to follow them for an entire day a few years ago. Those dudes work like 17-hour days. They're already overworked. They are already dedicating their entire lives to the sport and the success of you. And you can't do them the due diligence of showing up. They're already spending so much time. Troy Walters, position coach. Think about how hard they work. And then when you don't show up and then they are forced to scratch you, they also have to put in more time. You think about that. How many calls were made that day? Coaches had to call their wives, fiancés, girlfriends, let them know that they wouldn't be showing up for dinner. They wouldn't be showing up maybe if there was, I don't know, a father-in-law's birthday party. I'm just making scenarios up at this point. They weren't able to show up to their son's soccer game. They weren't able to show up to their daughter's dance recital because you were selfish. Couldn't show up for a walkthrough. I think that's BS. I think Joe Burrow has a right to not only be pissed off about how that game ended the second half, but also be pissed off that the receiver that he endorsed essentially made him look stupid in that scenario. For him to endorse you is huge. And for you to not live up to that endorsement is extremely disappointing. Extremely disappointing. Everybody makes mistakes, but you can't keep making the same ones over and over again. Yesterday in the post-game report with James Rapine, I was joking. I'm like, if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm bringing him back to my house with me and saying, you're not leaving my site until game day. But at the end of the day, that was obviously a joke. But at the end of the day, no one's going to do that for you. No one's going to hold your hand. No one does that in the real world outside of sports either. That's not how it works. You know, you think about, do the coaches want to be sitting there for 17, 19 hours a day? No. But they know that if they are able to uncover one little wrinkle, uncover some little thing that gives them an advantage to win, they're going to do it. They're going to spend the time doing that because it's important to them. So I feel like that decision affected a lot of people's lives probably. And I think a lot of people are probably disappointed with his inability to show up. And rookies do make mistakes. There are growing pains. But you've got to start showing people that you care about winning by your actions. Your words, if you talk to any vet, any coach, your words don't mean jack. It's all about your actions. It's all about your behavior. When you don't show up to a walkthrough, you are sending the message to your coaches and to your teammates that you don't care about this team winning. That's all they've been working for, is to win, to get back to the Super Bowl, to win the AFC North, to go to the AFC Championship. Show up for the guys who care to see you win and also care about the greater good of the team. That's the end of my rant. I will chill out. I've probably sounded like such a mom there, but that's how I feel. I feel like it's insane to do that to so many people, because your decision doesn't just affect you. It affects a lot of people around you. Hopefully he really experienced that on Sunday and it hit home with him, and he will not be making that mistake ever again. Okay, as far as the Bengals are concerned, we do have some injuries to get into. Orlando Brown, I spoke to him yesterday after the game. He said that he hopes to play on Thursday night. He said he's feeling good. Obviously, they have to see how well he does in the next couple days before they leave on Wednesday for Baltimore. But he is hoping to be cleared to be able to play on Thursday. T. Higgins, not a ton about what's going on with him. He's hoping to play on Thursday as well. Some devastating news was laid out today from Zach Taylor in his news conference. Eric Gall Jr., a promising tight end. He is such a massive part of the success of this offense. And for him to go down with an ACL, he's dealt with that injury before. It was about a year ago where he dealt with an ACL injury to his right knee. He's dealing with it again. And that is so disappointing, because he's one of those guys. I talked to him last week and I asked him, like, what makes him so good at his blocking assignments? Like, he is just, I feel like he is abnormally good at his blocking assignments. And he was just like, I'm reckless. I put my body out there. I go out there and lay everything on the line in order to make a good block so that my teammate can be successful, so that we can see a touchdown or a successful run. That is what his focus was. He was very team oriented. So to lose a guy like that is such, you feel for the coaching staff. Obviously, every single team is dealing with injuries. It's week 10, so everyone's kind of banged up. But to see a guy like that go down is really disappointing. Zach Moss, he's got that neck injury. Nothing was really clear on whether or not he'll be back this season. No one really knows. So, yeah, health is wealth in this league. And when guys start going down, a lot of changes have to be made to the game plan. And, everyone has to step up if this team wants to be successful and actually achieve the goals that they have set out to do from the start of the season. Talking about the run game a little bit. Oh my gosh. I was so happy to see them not abandon the run game. And the run game was actually working for them this week. Chase Brown, where is he? He had 27 attempts, 120 yards, according to the official stats. And he averaged 4.4 a carry. Wonderful. He had an explosive of 21. That was his longest run. And we knew going in, even when Joe Mixon was here, we knew that Chase Brown could be an explosive playmaker, and he was yesterday, and he did his job. I think he had the most snaps he's ever had in a Bengals uniform. Really, really happy to see that run game, because that run game, of course, as we've spoken about before on this show, it allows you to not obviously be one-dimensional, but it also forces that defense to respect the run, and that opens up the passing game for Joe Burrow. And he was able to throw 5 touchdowns yesterday. So much improvement there. I was looking at their rushing so far this season. They've only had 4 total games where they've rushed over 100 yards as a team. In those 4 times they've rushed for over 100 yards, they've only lost once, and that was to Washington in week 3, because Washington obviously was just playing out of their minds. They were off the rails in that game. And so that was the only outlier, the only loss that they've had when rushing over 100 yards. The Raiders, talk about the Raiders and Baltimore for a second. The Raiders beat Baltimore week 2, 26-23. And this is how you beat Baltimore. Baltimore is a team where you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who is, everyone knows how good he is, but he is having one of the most productive years of his career. Derrick Henry, also incredibly productive as well on the ground. They just don't make a lot of mistakes. They've got playmakers all over the ball. They don't make a lot of mistakes. Their only big ding, I think, on them right now is their deficiencies in pass defense, and that's about it. So when you face the Baltimore Ravens, you've got to force them into making little mistakes. The Raiders were able to do that. I noticed looking at their box score from week 2, I think the Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens squared off. Baltimore was 3 for 11 on third down. So the Raiders were able to force them into situations where they were forced off the field on third down. So they were not able to convert on third down against the Raiders. I also noted this was crazy. The Baltimore Ravens in that game against the Raiders, in that loss to the Raiders, 11 penalties for 109 yards. Now, Lamar Jackson, he only threw 1 touchdown. He was 21 of 34, 247 passing yards. Force the Baltimore Ravens to make the little mistakes. I also bring that back to Joe Burrow because I know the Baltimore Ravens will try to force the Bengals into making little mistakes because they know that they can beat the Cincinnati Bengals that way, is by forcing Joe Burrow or other guys on offense to make little mistakes, forcing communication issues. That can be a big advantage for teams like this. AFC North battle, it's never easy to get a win in the AFC North. Those wins, you have to fight tooth and nail for. And the Bengals know that. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons why right after the game, I talked to so many guys afterwards and they instantly said, we're not celebrating this win. Yeah, we're happy. Great, we won. We are moving on to Baltimore. Right now, they kept reiterating, it's Wednesday today. We have a game in a few days. It's Wednesday. We've got to get ready for Thursday. It's like their whole focus, the second that game ended, their whole focus shifted to Thursday night against Baltimore Ravens, because a win against the Baltimore Ravens brings you to 5-5. It does save your season in a way. And I was talking to Logan Wilson about this last night. I said, you got this win tonight. And when you think about your 2022 run, where you guys won 10 straight games in a row, before ultimately losing in the AFC Championship, it was week 9 when you guys started that win streak. And he said, yeah, that's right. Anything is possible. You can start a win streak and make it all the way to the AFC Championship. We've seen the Bengals do that before. It is absolutely possible. But it will take a win. 9 more wins. That's what it's going to take. They cannot afford more losses. That is why Thursday night is a huge game. Not just because it's in prime time, not just because the nation will be watching them, but to save their season and get their season on the right track and get their season moving towards the goal, the ultimate goal that they have worked for all offseason and all year so far. I will see you guys on Friday afternoon-ish, somewhere around there. We will discuss the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, what went down in that game, and we will also talk about their upcoming opponents. You are watching Deep in the Stripes.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.